Greetings, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight, we will continue our reading of The Black Anglo-Saxons by Nathan Hare, starting on page 51. Last night, we talked about the mimics and the cultured, those that basically copy things that they see in white society and do them in a black face. Tonight, we'll be talking about the sociables and the possessors if we have time.
Greetings. My name is the Revolutionary Matron, and my show is called The Learning Curve. I broadcast on a network called KWAZ Radio. There are other hosts on the network I'd like you to meet.
Greetings, everyone. This is Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast, inviting you to tune in to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed here belong solely to the respondent, and they do not necessarily reflect any broadcast networks, affiliates, nor sponsors. The Learning Curve is a broadcast created for the benefit of my global community. Black is a consciousness. Content is being used for our commentary, research, criticism, education, scholarship, teaching, preaching, and news reporting. No copyright infringement is intended. I will make enunciation mistakes. I will give you my opinion about the information. And if you ever ask, I will send you my source.
The sociables. The sociables are predominantly country folk recently displaced from the hospitality of rural life to flounder in the social emptiness of the big cities. They suffer keenly from lack of social acceptance and severe feelings of loneliness. These pangs are constantly eased by get togethers, get acquaintance fashion shows, and the like. At these events, participants contend for such honors as the host with the most or the hostess with the mostest. They strive for conversational variety and are more elusive aspects of conspicuous sociability. In their organized social life, the names of their clubs reveal their desperate quest for fellowship and pleasure. There are, for example, Harmony Friendship Clubs, the Royal Circle of Friends Social Club, and Know Your Neighbors Social Club. Obviously, if harmony and friendship really existed among these people, if they knew their neighbors, they would not have to form clubs for that purpose. The names of others, including church groups, reflect a desire for fellowship and new adventure. Women's Fellowship Bible Class, Men's Pioneer Bible Class, and the Playmate Bible Class. Certain clubs specialize in pleasure and happiness. The Joliettes, the Gay Cavaliers, the Gloom Chasers, the Epicureans, Ladies of Paradise, the Seafarers, the Gay Mesdames. Others describe social relations and personal dispositions. The Links, the Semenon Club, no names spelled backwards, the Charmers, the Characters, the Co-operates, and the Nonchalants. The more desperate sounding names include the All Purpose Club and, believe it or not, the Whatnots. The struggle for status and recognition in apparent names as such as the Zeniths, the highest, the plutocrats, wealthy rulers, Senators Social Club, the Select Set Club, and the Overseas Hunt and Fish Club, where hunting and fishing take place on trips back home to their parents' cow pastures and farm creeks. The craving for social acceptance leads in some localities to the founding of nonpareil birthday clubs, whose members obligate themselves to hold birthday parties in one another's honor, although they also sponsor weekly get-togethers between birthdays. Whenever sociables find themselves minus an excuse for an affair or gathering, they simply run down the color spectrum, trying the various permutations and combinations. There are red and green parties where the guests come dressed in either color with decor to match, and black and white dances where everyone is in one of these two shades, and so on. Take any random batch of sociables and you will note that their professed bias for association, as in many organizations, is merely a pretext for superficial friendship. The latter is apparent, for example, in the fact that a friend may be dropped abruptly because he has left the given social club. Conversely, members remaining in the club may find themselves expressing regret that they haven't heard or seen from so-and-so since he forsook the Wednesday night pinochle game. Greetings, forecast. So prevalent is club membership as a symbol of belonging that many sociables try to out-participate one another. Women sociables will boast of never having missed an annual club soiree for the past 20 years, and neither sickness, hell, or high water can keep a sociable away from her sorority boule. One shut-in lady, unable to attend a club function, answered the call of duty by telephoning friends, informing them of a change in the meeting place. Another, sentenced to a Caribbean cruise by her physician, got out of bed and deck chair to make a prize-winning outfit for the ship's costume ball. One sociable husband gave a party to celebrate the return of his wife from a minor operation in the hospital. While they were dancing, she collapsed and died in his arms. Some sociables seek fun and social appeasement in double doses. Debutantes, for example, may be given a second debut in addition to annual Christmas debuts and home debuts. Organizations not devoted exclusively to the production of social distraction frequently become hybrids, combining social and non-social functions. Others, such as the Greenwood Prom and Social and Savings Club, fulfill a multiplicity of purposes. Although sociables profess to regard their organizations as protective, united, benevolent, inspiring, social, civic, beneficial, and all-American, often the only member in good standing financially is the treasurer or perhaps the president or chairman. It is common practice to distinguish between financial members and active members. The latter are those who participate but may not pay dues regularly, a status with no stigma attached since they are the majority. Further, some of those least active financially are the most active in seconding motions and planning social activities. The high value that the sociable places on social participation, called socializing, is apparent in the fact that a co-ed who maintains an average scholastic rating on a northern white campus will receive national acclaim by virtue of her sociability. One co-ed was applauded for her acceptance as a cheerleader, a choir member, a soror, and a member of a social club called, significantly enough, Society Unlimited. A fashion model in Ebony's 1962 Fashion Fair tour, when quizzed on her major interests, replied, "Traveling and meeting people." For most sociables, the level of satisfaction increases in direct proportion to the number of persons met. Like most Negroes, they are severely restricted in the extent to which they may participate in the organized life of American society. Even more than their less frustrated white counterparts, sociables practice sociability as an end in itself. Most civic groups, accordingly, are essentially recreational associations. Their main functions are the throwing of annual balls, spring formals, and the like. At these events, members and selected guests are paraded in rented and borrowed tails and formals. Like their white equivalents, so-called secret societies are merely pretexts for the endless pursuit of sociability. This is also true, of course, of almost any organization of Black Anglo-Saxons, from PTAs to college alumni groups. In fact, most alumni associations might as well be called cabaret clubs. After paying admission to their entertainments and the dance-aramas, the members strut about proudly all night, inevitably ending up with crossed arms and linked thumbs, sighing and swaying at their frat songs and alma maters. An individual's worth is often measured by his proficiency and industry in creating social events. The highest tribute a guest can pay a hostess is to say that he was royally entertained. To sustain their reputations as princely hosts, clubs of sociables sponsor elaborate weekend affairs. A typical event would consist of a formal dress afternoon at the local Playboy Club, followed by a closed party. Persons accepted into these closed affairs and their related activities might be referred to as the socialite Pearlie Mae Simpson. Parties, fates, and so on are grouped under the general head of social courtesies, and in the literal sense, the individual who fails to extend or reciprocate such courtesies is condemned. Most sociables, however, speak enthusiastically of their social obligations. Many use them as an excuse for the neglect of their house cleaning chores and as a rationalization for the often chaotic state of their back bedrooms. Living rooms are always kept sufficiently in order to be made tidy by hastily picking up a few things from the floor in case of a visitor's arrival. Parties have increasingly become planned opportunities for recognition and acceptance, rather than a means of extending fellowship to friends or highly regarded acquaintances. An expression of such group activity is the choosing of Miss Congeniality Queens and Miss Personality title holders. Sociable couples contend for such accolades as among the top party givers of Southland. Summertime is known as party time, although they party up a storm all year round. But come summer, sociables go all out, even more than whites. They strive to entertain visiting friends and relatives, holding weekend-long house parties in their air-conditioned homes and breezy patios. This is known as house guesting and is often combined with lawn picnics, brunches, after hour, as well as before hour and in between hour, cocktail parties, and formal dinners. Sociables sponsor theme parties, harvest parties, wedding down parties, surprise parties, get acquainted parties, going away parties, bon voyage parties, and goodbye parties. After parties held immediately following some other social function are also popular. Guests are recruited from miles around, the farther the better, the host's motto being the more the merrier. According to a society columnist, 65 guests attended a lawn party in the fairly small city of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Invitees came not only from Tulsa itself, but from Oklahoma City, Okmulgee, Sapaloosa, Ponica City, all within the state, as well as from Kansas City and as far as from San Diego, California, all apparently merely to partake of this wonderful Southern hospitality. Some of the uninvited also came, although they would have been turned away from an exclusive affair held by the same hostess. After redecorating their patios, sociables send out scented invitations to as many as 100 people, always including some from out of town. The following week, all guests are listed in the society column of the local weekly, including relatives, friends of relatives, relatives of friends, and old acquaintances visiting their own relatives. Each paragraph of names is preceded by messieurs and madams. So they do this to put on airs, to be sociable. Another popular practice is the hosting of several couples for the weekend. This suggests that the host has enough vacant bedrooms and surplus food for people not within his immediate family. It also means that unlike most Negroes, he does not work or do chores on weekends. He is free to entertain. Even when the invitation is issued to some special groups, such as those who happen to attend a given high school together, it often states that anyone is welcome to attend. An exclusive ball held in Lakewood, New Jersey, for instance, will attract as many as 600 guests. They will come from as far away as Miami, Florida, Cleveland, Ohio, and West Africa. Sociables court friendships even among the migratory acquaintances in order to later wangle invitations from them. On many local scenes, it is not unusual to hear it boasted that over 200 friends came to share some sociables' unlimited hospitality. Of course, all these people did not occupy the premises simultaneously. So 200 people processed through their house. At such mammoth get-togethers, couples from out of town are at a premium. Some think nothing of taking a plane the 250 miles between Washington, D.C. and New York. The total distance traveled by the guests of a sociable hostess is a measure of her prestige. To travel by air, even for short distances, brings additional rewards. But it is becoming unnecessary to go out in order to attend a party in sociable society. Nomadic party givers may just as well bring an affair to your own door. A suburban well-to-do couple recently traveled from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Washington, D.C. to throw a party in their daughter's house. We got tired of just entertaining friends, the couple explained. A Washington woman, on the other hand, threw a party for her mother's birthday. Since all the guests were friends of her daughter, the mother thought the affair was a club meeting until informed otherwise. In addition to such paradoxums of social activity, sociables throw talent and variety fall cocktail parties and weekly bulging at the seams house parties to fill the void between annual drop-ins. All of these organize and collective the spontaneity of what, among other groups, would simply be home visiting. 4 couples in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania recently threw a wild reacquaintance party to celebrate their divorces. So they want to party for any reason at all. Then there are the evenings of elegance, to which guests come in rented and borrowed Cadillacs and Continentals in New York. Some even come in horse-drawn surreys, each horse being bedecked with a throw blanket and wearing a picture garden hat. Such gatherings feature the 3 C's: cards, capers, and coffees, plus the big L and D, liquor and dancing. After staging these affairs in fashionable or white-owned downtown hotels, sociables assert that the premises may never again see such social splendor. Persons failing to express equal enthusiasm are labeled as squares, antisocials, or simply sourpusses. So even in all of this money that they have moving around for all of these social events and activities, they're still buying into the white power structure because they don't even patronize Black businesses when they do it. So prolific are these get-togethers that a president of the New York City Uptown Chamber of Commerce was impelled to issue a plea to their sponsors. He begged uptown sociable groups sponsoring dances and similar affairs to stop plastering signs all over 125th Street buildings, store windows, and boarded up premises undergoing repairs, not to mention streetlight poles and parking meters. Such posters were said to cheapen the streets and nullify its aesthetic qualities. The Chamber of Commerce could not understand why the area's principal crosstown street should resemble one great big billboard, particularly just before Christmas, when among sociables the decorative and festive urge outweighs the pursuit of peace and piety. Other sociable functions include the various cavalcades of fashion. In downtown white grand ballrooms, menus will range from prime ribs to poultry called game in sociable circles and champagne. Church groups and other exclusive clubs stage annual lawn parties and fashion shows. At these events, held on spacious church or home lawns, sociables display the latest fashion in day and evening wear. One such event, tossed by a church group on the south side of Chicago, may be taken as typical. It featured an exotic theme. Caribbean Carousel is a sample title, which was carried out in scenery and table decorations. Music was supplied by a local concert band. This activity was presided over by a general chairman and a number of co-chairmen, one in charge of the tables, another supervising the ground decorations, and still another overseeing refreshments. Churches also put on banquet fashion reviews, which combine a feast and a fashion show in a single event. In small and medium-sized towns where space is abundant and closer relations with the farm prevail, the favorite affairs are cookouts, patio parties, and barbecue suppers, where the sociables boast that they party like savages, thus placing themselves by indirection above savages. The social seasons of big city sociables last the year round. After each sociables claim that they did it up in a big way and that everybody that's anybody was there, this last is usually addressed to a fellow sociable who was not there, so it was a little social dig. In addition, the in addition to annual and bi-monthly outings, weekend socials are given. There may attract guests where these may attract guests from as many as 15 states. After a round of dancing or other activity, reservations are made for a jaunt to Hot Springs, Arkansas, for example. After, the party guests will be whisked off to the resort by special limousine. The forecast says we do be jamming though. We do. We party and we party hard. Sightseeing has become a major activity because it symbolizes leisure and suggests that the individual is very much in the know. Traveling by automobile from Los Angeles to Tulsa, sociables will spend as much as a full day viewing the Grand Canyon en route. Others journey from Atlanta to all points north, such as Colorado Springs, for sightseeing at the Garden of the Gods and the zoo. A typical sightseeing tour will include Yellowstone National Park, the Geyser, animals, the Grand Canyon, snow-capped mountains, waterfalls, then on to Salt Lake City, Utah to see the Mormon Tabernacle. This, despite the fact that Negroes are excluded from this white religion whose adherents believe them to be without souls. The tour continues to California and to the Golden Gate Bridge and Bay Bridges, Golden Gate Park and Sequoia National Park to see the big trees. Then Disneyland, the Knoll's Farm, Pacific Ocean Park, the Painted Desert, and the Petrified Forest, plus other points down Mexico way. Sociable clubs down south in Norfolk, Virginia, for example, sponsor collective tours to places like Miami. En route, they may stop in such segregated spots as Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia. They visit the Fountain of Youth, Marineland, and the oldest house in Florida at St. Augustine. There also are sightseeing trips to Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, and Parrot Jungle, as well as 7-hour boat cruises up the Miami River to Fort Lauderdale. Having reached Silver Springs and Osceola, they experience the pleasure of going up in the Silver River in the glass-bottom boat. Such experiences are never forgotten by a sociable, and his friends and associates are doomed to hear about them forever. Care is also taken to get word of such vacation sojourns to local weeklies, so they tell the papers and they want it published. Thousands of dollars are spent annually on plane and train tickets for these Roman holidays. As it is with whites, the pretext for a vacation is frequently an annual or semi-annual professional convention. Increasingly, these affairs are being built around simultaneous family vacations. When the Medics met in Chicago during the summer of 1962, they were able to plan a family vacation along with their serious business side of the meeting. Thus, the highlights of the Medical Association's conclave were reported as boat rides, the President's Ball, and the inevitable get-acquainted party. Another tendency in Black Anglo-Saxon men's social clubs, associations, and so on, is the formation of a women's auxiliary. The chief function of these groups is the production of social spectacles to enliven the boredom of the routine business meetings ritualistically conducted by the male sociables. The Women's Auxiliary of a Black Anglo-Saxon owned cab company in Washington, D.C., is one such group. Every summer, they take off with some invited guests on the Potomac cruise. One year, the guests were the Honor Guard from Fort Myer, Virginia. They explained this on the grounds that guarding the tomb of the unknown soldier, who may have even been a Black Anglo-Saxon, was tedious and the boys need to relax. And so the groups cruised down from the Potomac from 12 a.m. to 3 in the morning. They felt, you see, that boat rides were not unusual, but an early morning cruise, that's different. There are so many things that women can do when they organize, their president marveled. And indeed, there are. The Women's Auxiliary of the Medical, Dental, and Pharmaceutical Association of Southern California, for example, manages to put on an annual Yuletide ball. It attracts professionals and non-professionals from all over the state as well as from distant states. Of course, auxiliarying is not a one-way street. Male sociables may also form auxiliaries to female groups. For instance, there is a National Association for Pinochle Players, the Pinochle Bugs Incorporated, made up of Society Negro women across the country. When the association held its annual executive board meeting in Washington, D.C. during the autumn of 1962, a smoker and dinner dance were added for the brother group, the Pinochle Pests. In turn, the men gave a cocktail party and a dinner for the women. Those wealthy or childless sociables able to afford it may use the vacation to escape from a wife or a husband. One California couple owns a beach hotel outside Washington, D.C. and manages separate vacations each year. Alternately, one goes to the beach hotel and the other to Hawaii. Sociables will often contend for space on observation cars in order to, while the long hours away, contentedly gazing at the handiwork of Mother Nature. When a DC club sponsored a trip to Bermuda, it was advertised to sociable tourists as 6 exciting, interesting, enjoyable, guided sightseeing tours that include a picnic, beach party on pink sand, delightful calypso entertainment at a swizzle party, ride in a fringed taxi, swim, fish, relearn to ride a bike. Driving a car is the major hobby of one set of sociables, especially on the long summer trips during which they tour several states. A representative tour was described as vacationing with God in 5 prominent churches, observing universities, observing all exhibits in the Seattle World's Fair, natural art in the Hot Springs area, Grand Canyon, Yosemite National Park beaches, painted deserts, geysers, especially Old Faithful at Yellowstone Park, Great Lakes, and the Mystic Caverns in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Also, visits to the Hoover Dam, the City Park in Sac City, Iowa, the Stockyards in Kentucky, a ball game in Milwaukee between the Braves and the Giants, and the Petrified Forest. This educational and recreational motor tour was said to represent a dream come true. Greetings, Anthony McPhail. Thanks so much for tuning in. Some sociables known as the summer cottage set never cease cruising, flying, and motoring to such places as the Caribbean. Boat rides are especially popular as a source of conspicuous idleness or just going to be going, as they say. Of equal importance may be childhood memories of fishing, bringing back fond creek bed recollections for those with rural backgrounds. One national club of gentlemen and ladies in and around Washington, D.C., the Seafarers, one nautical club of gentlemen and ladies in and around Washington, D.C., the Seafarers, plot a different course each weekend for their luxurious pleasure craft. This may include cruising with a river and dropping an anchor for a day-long picnic and outing with another club. Even fashion shows are rendered more fashionable if they take place on a ship sailing from Cleveland to, say, Michigan. Certain sociables go on 2-week fishing expeditions as far as Mexico. A typical week's activities, in addition to the fishing, includes these highlights. Monday, an invitational garden party. Tuesday, a dinner dance. Wednesday, a drive through the countryside. Thursday, leisure. Friday, a short trip to a nearby island on the side. And Saturday, back to relaxing again. Relaxation once a means of recuperation from the exhaustion caused by work, has now become an end to the pursuit to be pursued for its own sake. Thorstein Veblen's study of the white leisure class found them generations ago gaining prestige via abstinence from work. But the Black Anglo-Saxon sociable, being economically less able to abstain from work, is impelled to both work hard and play hard. Indeed, Professor Fraser found high-class Black Anglo-Saxons, or the Black bourgeoisie, using exhibitionism in play as a pathetic means of getting whites to take them seriously. Accordingly, many work harder and at play than at their jobs, being even more conspicuous about their bored white middle class models. This is not to say that the sociable's relaxation does not truly serve a recuperative purpose. One only has to attend a typical social function to appreciate the participants' need to recuperate. When the National Council of Negro Women Incorporated held an international cotillion at the Waldorf Astoria in the fall of 1962, guests later sought to rest up from the brisk doings by retreating to their country homes. Sociables frequently rationalize their motives by saying that a person will go crazy if he works too hard or does not play enough. And so they proceed to go crazy together with compensatory recreation. When a physician and his sociable wife took off for Florida and segregated Miami Beach recently, they revealed their major aspirations. For the doctor, these were the great golf courses. For his wife, the chance to lie in the sun and while away some time at bridge or shopping adventures in the quaint shops that abound there. But this was in a segregated area. The consumption of time left over from work is a major endeavor for the sociable. It leads him to such activities as rest safaris, in which he may go as far as Nassau for the purpose of enjoying a bit of relaxation. When a sociable is asked what he did while vacationing in California the previous summer, he's likely to reply, "I relaxed." In fact, He traveled all the way from Arkansas or Louisiana to California for that very purpose. One lady sociable in Tulsa, Oklahoma, casually arranged her plans to take a few days rest from her work. During this time, she toured Michigan, Illinois, Washington, D.C., and Missouri. A random telephone call to a sociable's house will find him busy being lazy, talking with some fellow sociable about money, God, and eating, the sociable's sacred trinity. Sleeping is an excellent means of recuperation from exhaustion, is often approached as a form of recreation. On their weekends off, sociables will pull down the shades, lower the volume on their radio or television set, and lie in semi-conscious drowsiness. Periodically, semi-audible sounds will awaken them. During all this time, they maintain the curious pretense that they are sleeping. Some sociables form leisure hour clubs. For them, it is not enough merely to be idle. They must be inactive in a conspicuous and organized way. In 1962, in the midst of the civil rights struggle, the Atlanta Daily World, for a long time the only Negro daily in the U.S., devoted an editorial to the subject of relaxation. It included the following sober tip. The art of relaxing is an important feature of a person's life. Each person accomplishes it in a different way and methods. But the object should be kept in mind, and we should all ensure ourselves that we are getting the maximum relaxation that is possible through our own method. When in 1960 the opportunities for maximum relaxation in a community of Chicago sociables were threatened, they sought help from white civic leaders. The trouble began when Black Muslims purchased 2 city blocks in Chicago's Chatham community, then being turned over to the Negroes. They proposed to use the land for a hospital, a library, and a mosque. The district's Black Anglo-Saxon sociables persuaded the city to repossess the area for a proposed park. Now, that's hating. That's hating. The Muslims maintained that they wanted to build something useful to the Negro community. The sociables preferred the acreage, according to the Muslims, as a place to eat, sleep, play, and to grow fat, satisfied, and greasy. But the Muslims lost in the courts, and the sociables continued to charter buses to take them on weekends of relaxation and sightseeing, supplemented by motorcades to the other side of town to view the white residential sections. For others, relaxation is not enough. They also seek organized distraction from their daily lives. This accounts for the recent cotillion fad. One such affair, the Christmas cotillion, reflecting the waning tendency in white society to keep that day a holy one, has become nationwide in scope. On this occasion, debs, sub-debs, and squires from all over the country and abroad are presented to society. There is also a marathon program of preliminaries to the cotillion, including an elaborate ballet spectacle and a formal dinner where the Diamond Cross of Malta is presented to a selected recipient with the usual parade of honorees. The guests then adjourn to 2 ballrooms for the grand ball or cotillion proper, where guests will boast that 2 orchestras played and we balled a while until morning and the annual cotillion breakfast party. The Christmas cotillion is not unique. There are several such balls, all national in scope. One is under the auspices of the National Council of Negro Women, and two are run by exclusive social clubs. Still another is sponsored by a social action group run mainly, but as most are, by Black Anglo-Saxons, in conjunction with a soda pop company and a beer manufacturer. In some local localities, debutante balls are reported to be fast-growing auditorium facilities. The participants are said to outdo themselves with each successive annual event, and it is getting to the point where arrangements must be made a year or more in advance. Coming out time is regarded as a great occasion, with mom worried about as much about her grown daughter with the realization that they are facing the social world. This can prove a considerable ordeal. One Oklahoma City deb fainted from fatigue and tension at her debut during the frantic process of changing rapidly from frock to frock. Fathers also undergo a strain and will fly out to New York or Los Angeles from as far away as Chicago in order to be at the footsteps and to greet the deb daughter coming out, i.e., down the stairs. Even relatives of remote lineage will journey hundreds of miles to beam at the sight of a second cousin entering society. Don't we do that today with these proms? The cotillion spectacle is a true ceremony of initiation, very much as in its primitive tribes, as described by writers like Margaret Mead. Here, however, the rites derive from white society. The young sociable belle is formally admitted to the status and privileges of sophisticated Black Anglo-Saxon womanhood. These daughters of Negro nobility, mainly schoolmasters with a sprinkling of lawyers, physicians, undertakers, government clerks, and typists, ex-prize fighters, ball players, jazz musicians, and hairstylists, on entering society, gained the privilege of swapping girlish cares for the crown of young womanhood. Another example of the sociable's cult is that Beaux Arts Ball, staged annually by the National Urban League Guild. This affair takes place whenever possible in the main ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria. This allows the general tendency to borrow prestige from the locale in which the social function takes place. It is a mark of still further distinction if the ball at the Waldorf is followed by a cocktail party at the Four Seasons restaurant, after which the party proceeds to the main ballroom of the St. Regis Hotel. There are some 300 daughters of Cleopatra, Black Anglo-Saxon contestants for the title of Miss Beaux Arts, compete for the coveted beauty crown. The 1962 event was financed as usual by a white-owned beer company. It has been contended that the beauty of the dark-skinned woman has been a source of worldwide attention since the days of Cleopatra. Further, it has been said that the Urban League Guild and the brewing company have given this beauty a new burst of freedom, which has apparently projected it towards unlimited horizons in the world of the 20th century. Despite all this, the 8 daughters of Cleopatra who were finally selected could easily have passed for white. Footnote: skeptics may check this assertion by consulting the New York Amsterdam News for August 4th, 1962. See page 4. So they went through all of that to celebrate the beauty of Blackness, and they selected 8 girls that could pass for white as their queens. The competition requires that candidates, aside from their good looks, must also have popular support. This prompts them to stage political style campaigns. One, for instance, held a rally in a cocktail lounge in order to court votes. Sociables also engage in the productive production of elaborate organized trivia. Their countless observances exploit everything from anniversaries, silver and golden, to weekly cardoramas, whilst bid whist and bridge sessions, cardoramas. He wrote that interestingly, which is bid for bid whist and bridge sessions. There is also the passion for parading, particularly by those in fraternal and secret societies. The world's greatest parades usually consist of thousands of costume strutters advancing in a blaze of pageantry. Prizes are given for proficiency at conspicuous marching by precision drill teams, make-believe soldiers without an army. When possible, the drill show is adorned by the presence of a mixed motorcycle patrol from the local police department. I will be done by 8:30 so that forecast can go live. And he says that they sound like the people in Zimbabwe last year with a white beauty queen. Exactly. The sociable's pursuit of the insignificant is apparent even in serious matters, according to Simeon Booker of Jets Magazine's Washington Bureau. A major Negro group in the capital urged the government to hold a bathing beauty contest at Lincoln Memorial as part of the Emancipation Proclamation Centennial. Whereas mass meetings of the NAACP are peaceful and poorly attended, their dinners and entertainments, such as a recent Los Angeles affair, must turn away as many persons seeking to help the cause of freedom. At the Los Angeles affair, which admitted 1,100 persons, overcrowding finally caused the fire department to be summoned. 17 guests had clustered around the local president's table, refusing to move until the police were called. A number of other civic workers with long records as sincere, dedicated crusaders had to leave along with their guests for lack of seats. Even the second vice president lost his place to a freeloading sociable. Other civic sociables were indignant over the location of their tables. One leader reported losing 14 pounds, NAACPing, and was ordered to bed by her doctor. While there, she marveled over the many colorful, priceless wigs, minks, and ermines she had seen at the Hollywood Beverly Hills affair. She was, she said, real proud of 4 female Black Anglo-Saxons who were among the best dressed women in the room, barring none that is not even whites. In another instance, more than 100 prominent sociables in Los Angeles ignored an anti-segregation picket line at the Fox Hills Country Club to take part in the Vernon Crest tournament and golfers banquet. Many of them sheepishly slipped around to the end of the course, several miles from the front entrance, to avoid actually crossing the picket line. Despite the foregoing, many do not view their roles as merely sociable ones. Instead, they feel they are fulfilling some supreme humanitarian function, such as breaking down discrimination. This may be in terms of an occasional bringing together of a salt and pepper group of fun makers, or more commonly, it may be a production of images like Joe Sawali, author of the capitalist spotlight column, The Passing Show, took pains to clarify this point in reference to a recent event in Norfolk, Virginia. It has never occurred to some people, but social clubs can do much more to improve the image of the Negro in places where he has been formerly discriminated against. As evidence, he cited the fact that over 100 Negroes were seen to check into the Golden Triangle Hotel, regarded as the most famous hostelry in downtown Norfolk. For 2 nights, he went on, the group would be called feted in the spectacular air-conditioned aluminum domed convention center at Virginia Beach, from which they were formerly excluded. The Norfolk Guardsmen, a social club, acting accordingly to Seawall in the same manner, were the first Negroes admitted there some years before. With their appearance and decorum, they won over the unfriendly white Southerners. The search for white approval is only one of the factors which bring about a conformist attitude among sociables. In their employment, they are generally compelled to bow to other sociables who are their superiors. These last differentiate among their subordinates on the basis of fraternity or sorority affiliations. Likewise, friendship and clique patterns tend to center around fraternal links. In all these things, congeniality and deference take priority over sentiment and the natural expression of personal feelings. This necessitates wearing masks of glee, acquiescence, and charm that have very little relation to the sociable's inner emotions. So you remember that poem, We Wear the Mask? This is the sociable. The production of superficial cordiality has led to such bizarre curiosities as laughing contests in which prizes are given to the heartiest laughter. These contests are especially prevalent in large cities. Thus, it would seem that sociables reflect the alienation experienced by many persons caused by the routinization and anonymity of modern metropolitan life. In the case of the sociable, however, the condition is more acute. For him, the alienation of city life is compounded by the rejection experienced in his quest for white acceptance. He suffers from the discrepancy between the fact of his having been granted the life, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness on the one hand, while having been objectively thwarted in the pursuit of them on the other. Spurred by a history and personal background of hard labor and by increasingly preeminence of the label in American culture, he confuses mere idleness, particularly freedom from productive activities, with general well-being. Booker T. Washington talks a lot about this, that um, there are a lot of people, especially people that were laborers, that looked at the escape from manual labor as freedom instead of looking at labor with dignity. But finding that ease alone does not bring happiness, he is led to compensate by chronic dissipation. Fruitlessly, he seeks the happiness that eludes or is denied him. So, as you can see, the sociable, which we did not get to the possessor tonight, the sociable wears the mask. I'm going to read that poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar, if you give me one moment. As Anthony McPhail says, the first line is, we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. By Paul Laurence Dunbar. We have to get to the point where we're not wearing this mask, where we're not ashamed of who we are and what we are. We have to get to the point where we're not being social just to be social, but we're being social for a purpose. We're not doing these things to emulate white behavior, but we're doing these things for Black empowerment and Black progress. And once we get to the point where we're doing that, then we'll be more aligned with the things that we need to do so that we can get to where we want to get to. And we will truly know and taste freedom. We will stop looking at acts of leisure as true freedom, and we will see the dignity in labor and in hard work, and we will not work hard and play hard, but we will work smart and play well. Do you know what I'm saying? If that makes sense, you guys let me know. But until tomorrow, Um, I want to thank Anthony McPhail and the Forecast for being active in the chat. I want to thank each and every one of you that's listening live. I know that Brother Bakari is listening. I know that Bwana Haguziki is listening. I know that Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast is listening. I know that Oni from the Pro Black Perspective is listening. I know that the staff from Jesse's Kids and the Daycare Ladies Network and the Anthony Adrian Academy are listening. I know that Sister Raw and the elders are listening as well. I thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. I appreciate you, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you, guys. Peace.